So it's interesting, Matt, because the vaccine messaging was not working. Not enough people were getting the vaccine because they were being told repeatedly by the CDC, by Rochelle Walensky, who said, I have impending doom, and by Dr. Anthony Fauci, well, even if I were masked in the mountains of Austria singing The Hills Are Alive, I would still very much be triple masked. So what are your thoughts, Matt?
I think that actually you do the better one and should go on Saturday Night Live for the cold open from now on. No, I see the same thing that Inez and you saw in New York this weekend. My neighborhood in Brooklyn went from 60% to 40%. Not that I'm counting up to 100 every time I walk outside and staring at everybody's faces. I'm not doing that at all every day on the sidewalk. The CDC at this point, we have to understand after 15 months of this stuff, we should learn one thing, is that their job, as they see it, is not to tell us the truth. It's to model our behavior. They're shaping us or attempting to shape us like clay. And like all paternalistic such efforts, that's a disaster. It's not what they should have been doing in this pandemic. They should have been saying, here's what we know, here's what we don't know. Here's some things that we recommend, we're not sure about, or, here is in the early days. The fact is we don't have enough masks, so maybe don't go out and like binge buy them all at once. They could have cleared with us from the beginning. They never have. The only thing that changed was not the science at all. It was the number or the percentage of people that were vaccinated, and also the communities that were not taking the vaccine. And so people were trying to come up with like social promotion strategies. What can we do to reach those people? That's not a health and science message. That is a promotional message. I get it that you have to find ways to get people to get vaxxed. I love all the giveaways, like the Talladega Speedway giveaway for people is super awesome. And there's a lot of creativity here. Hopefully we don't have to ever see Bill de Blasio eat French fries on live camera again. But just tell us the truth. Public health has been shamed in this process.
Yeah, Bill de Blasio eating French fries is bad or worse than John Kasich eating pizza and pancakes. But they keep doing interviews. It's interesting, Matt, because he won't shut up. And he's always, I'm so worried about my privacy. And the First Amendment is bonkers. How do you not just round up and imprison your journalists? It's really gross. Yeah, go ahead.
I'm just going to say your accent sounds a lot more posh than his. I was kind of expecking a cleaner mouth.
You're doing a lot of
Mick
great
Jagger
voices tonight,
talks
Kennedy.
nicer than this.
You're doing a lot of great accents.
Watch the show.
It's Captain.
A point that Inez was alluding to that's very important for our conception as Americans, especially those many of us who recently adopted and embraced America and fight harder for it than many others, I might add, is that this is baked into the American Revolution. We were fighting against seditious libel laws against the crown in the 1740s, 50s, 60s, and 70s. It absolutely informed the writing of the First Amendment, the writing of the Declaration of Independence. We were prosecuted, us Americans, for writing and talking all kinds of just garbage against the British overseers of us. And it was all technically illegal. But even the provisional courts here in the States were like, yeah, well, these Americans, they're kind of we have a different sort of view about this. And they started creating even the pre-independence case law against the notion of seditious libel. Seditious libel is libel against the crown, basically, libel against power. We don't believe in that as Americans. We didn't believe that before we were even Americans. It's a marvelous victory of the Enlightenment. And as usual, it's not the monarchies who write the great glories and the liberations of liberalism and freedom of speech. It is the republics. He can go take a long walk off a short Santa Monica pier.
Absolutely. No accountability, no return on investment, and no reason that I should have to pay for it. Only a third of adults in this country have college degrees. And Inez is right. There's no reason that the lower earning 2/3 of the country should have to pay for that. But what are we getting for our taxes? Now, what are we getting? I look around. I was talking to an Uber driver today. Like, there are potholes all over the place. Crime is skyrocketing in big cities. It's like infrastructure is crumbling. There's very little in the infrastructure bill to fix what's crumbling. So what do we get?
We get nice payouts to public sector unions, to defense contractors. to people who get to contracts doing diversity, equity, and inclusion trainings for every single HR department on the planet. It's amazing. It's Barack Obama, when he was in office, used to say, we used to build Golden Gate bridges. Why don't we do that anymore? Granted, that was historically illiterate because most of that was private money, but you get the point. Like, there used to be these sort of grand things. Well, what happens when protected interests get hold of guaranteed revenue streams? Everywhere else in the private economy, you have to earn money, right? You have to convince someone to buy your stuff. And as soon as you start really sucking, they're going to stop buying your stuff. They're going to root around you, and that's it. You're toast in a little while. Government doesn't have that problem. So it can just sort of like keep going on forever. And so all these interest groups coalesce around it, figure out a way to siphon it. My God, the teachers' unions in this country over the last 15 months have pulled one of the greatest heists in American history.
That's right.
By getting $140 billion from the federal government, which isn't even in charge of this stuff, while everyone was fleeing the public school system that they closed. That's pretty cool if you're a teachers union.
Yeah,
it's pretty terrible for everybody else.
The hits keep on coming. They've got guaranteed money, $200 billion of it coming over the next 6 years. So Matt, at your party this weekend, I hung out with a gay cop, and he was lovely and also deeply hurt by this. He said in years past, when he has marched in the Pride Parade with his fellow LGBTQ officers, that he was in tears because of the reception that they had received, the warm applause and the adulation from the community. And now he says he can't even be a part of it. He said, he's heartbroken.
Yeah, these guys had to sue the NYPD to get into the parade, right? They didn't have to sue the parade organizers. They had to sue their own cops, their own management, to say, hey, look, we want to march in uniform in this parade, which they did. A federal discrimination lawsuit. They filed that. And in 1996, they finally got the right. And they were so stoked to join this parade. To point out that, yes, the Gay Pride Parade in New York, which is the biggest and greatest in the world, it launched the gay liberation movement. This started after the Stonewall riots, which is infamously the cops coming in to a gay club in Greenwich Village and beating heads. And then a lot of people said, screw that. And they rioted against the cops, this big melee for several days. Okay,
so
it comes out of that. A gay dude who became a cop. A guy named Frank Sargent. Started the Pride Parade. He was a 20-year-old bookstore owner or manager, and he went on to move to Connecticut, and he became a lieutenant in the Stamford, Connecticut Police Department because there was an ethic.
Wonderful things happen.